Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for September 6, 2022, around 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about today, including multiple tropical cyclone threats over the next several days. Will another hurricane strike your area? Let's go ahead and jump straight into everything. Taking a weather across the tropical Atlantic this afternoon, we noticed that we have a few things occurring across the basin today. First of all, in the Atlantic, we have Tropical Storm Earl, which is well to the south of Bermuda right now. We have Hurricane Danielle, still a hurricane up here in the subtropical Atlantic, and then two other systems coming off the coast of Africa, which will both have chances for development over the next couple of days. If we take a look here at the visible satellite imagery for Tropical Storm Earl, we noticed that today the cloud pattern has become a lot better organized from yesterday's video, and in fact, we are beginning to start to see the signs of convective bursts rotating around here. This is actually indicative that we probably have an eye wall that is trying to form in this area. And we notice that the low and mid-level centers are becoming more aligned. We still notice that the southern part of the circulation is still without convection, and there's still a lot of dry air. We notice all these arc clouds here, these outflow boundaries. This indicates the presence of very dry air within the storm's environment, but it is trying to become better organized. Take a look at the recon plane that was in there from earlier this morning. We noticed that we have pressures that are hanging around 999 millibars at this point, and we noticed that most of the heaviest weather and wind is off towards the north here, towards the northeast of the circulation. And this is when the convection was a little bit ill-defined on that northern side. It was very ragged this morning. So we'll see if the latest recon plane that is in there picks up anything different. Now, the track forecast over the next several days does have this becoming a major Category 3 hurricane as it passes to the northeast of Bermuda. We notice that this is the official track forecast right now, so this is expected to become a hurricane sometime by tomorrow as this begins to make that turn off towards the north and east. This is going to comfortably pass away from Bermuda. That's the island of Bermuda right there. And the center of circulation is expected to pass well to the east of Bermuda on this current forecast trajectory. However, there is the potential for some impact still to the island, which we'll go ahead and talk about now. Now, if we look at the GFS forecast, this is the 10-meter wind field. We're looking at about 5,000 or less feet. I think this is probably, I don't know what 10 meters would equivalent to, but we're looking under 5,000 feet in the atmosphere, so we're looking very close to the surface here. We notice that the wind field over the next several days, as the storm goes on to intensify, does expand as it encounters more moisture available to it, but also as we start to get interactions with the jet and the troughs here. And we notice that this still passes well to the east of Bermuda because that's the island right there. The center is still maybe about 100 miles away. However, the wind field is gradually expanding. If you take a look at this on a zoomed-in view here, this is the Hurricane Pacific H-WRF here. We notice that, again, over the next several days, you can see that wind field gradually start to expand as it approaches Bermuda. So this is the island of Bermuda right here, and this is valid for Thursday evening at 8 o'clock in the evening. And we notice that, again, look at this wind field. It is gigantic, and we can actually kind of measure the size here. We've got a wind field that extends 230 miles worth of tropical storm force winds. So this is a very extensive, very large system. And then we notice that as we progress through the morning on Friday, we start to get heavy wind and potentially even some heavy rain that impacts the island as well. You can actually see here that sustained tropical storm force winds and potentially even winds gusting as high as 60 to 70 miles per hour would be possible on the island of Bermuda here sometime Friday morning as the center of circulation passes roughly about 60 miles offshore. This has been trending closer to Bermuda over the last couple of runs. We can see here this is actually the closest run yet to Bermuda. The same thing here with the GFS forecast consistently shifting the storm closer to Bermuda. So it is not out of the realm of possibility that we do have some direct impacts from Earl to the island of Bermuda here. And we also notice that if we look at the relative humidity and the moisture too, we notice that there's going to be this big moisture plume that stretches over the island. This indicates that, again, we could be dealing with some heavy weather even on the far northwestern quadrant here. Of course, the winds would be a little bit less here because of the direction that the storm's moving. But still, nonetheless, there's potential for some heavy rain and gusty winds to the island of Bermuda sometime by Friday morning. So we're really targeting late Thursday evening into early Friday morning that we could be dealing with impacts to the island of Bermuda. And then sometime by Friday morning, this is going to be a very quick moving system here. So sometime again, late Thursday into early Friday morning, clearing out by later on the day on Friday, because this will be a very quick moving storm. Now, shifting gears here to look at another tropical system here. This is one in the East Pacific Basin. We have Hurricane K, which is to the southwest of Mexico right now. This has become a hurricane yesterday based on the aircraft reconnaissance data. And we noticed that today this is trying to clear out an eye as it passes these little islands right here. This is, again, well to the southwest of Mexico at this time, but does pose some concern. If we take a look here at the track forecast here from NHC, we do have the potential that this will be making direct impacts or potential landfall somewhere near the Baja Peninsula up there to the northeast of the Cabo San, or to the northwest of the Cabo San Lucas resort areas. And this is going to be something to monitor. This is expected to become a major hurricane on Wednesday. This is Mountain Daylight Time we're talking about. So by 6 p.m.-ish on Wednesday, local time, we're going to be dealing with a potential major hurricane to the southwest of the Cabo San Lucas resort areas. And much more similar to Earl, the wind field is expected to expand. And we do have tropical storm watches and warnings that have been hoisted for portions of the Baja Peninsula, including a tropical storm warning for the Cabo San Lucas resort areas. Eventually, this will be making its way towards the northwest and dissipating in the cooler waters here. Sometime early Monday morning, this is expected to become a remnant low. If you look at the HWAR forecast here, the upper level wind environment is very favorable for additional strengthening. We notice that as we progress through the next several days. We've got broad outflow that is expanding in all directions here, indicating that we have a very healthy anticyclonic pattern over top of the storm. This allows for additional intensification. And then eventually we start to move into cooler waters. If we look at the sea surface temperatures here, we notice that this is going to be carving up those warm waters very quickly here. So this is in very warm waters now, going to be carving that up for the next several days. And then we end up in an environment that is less than favorable for tropical cyclones to maintain themselves. And so this really begins to weaken and eventually starts to feel more of that low-level flow and turns away here from the Baja Peninsula. So we can kind of see how that begins to taper away and then becomes a remnant circulation sometime by Monday morning. So this is not really expected to be much of anything significant after the peninsula here. But we look at the wind field again. This is expected to expand, and this is an overall large system to begin with. And so tropical storm conditions, if we zoom in here, are to be expected on portions of the Baja Peninsula. We can kind of see here that even though, again, the center of circulation on the HWRF is well away here, much like Earl, this is a very large system. So there could be some impacts, especially right along coastal areas. And some of the other hurricane-specific models as well do somewhat similar agree to this as well. We can see here that the HMON, again, brings tropical storm conditions to the coastline here. So this seems like this probably is likely to be somewhat of a coastal event and doesn't seem like it's going to make significant headway. But again, the wind field will be expansive and expanding as it begins to weaken, so we will have to watch for potential impacts there. And again, if we look at the overall track forecast, there's not really many members that do anticipate landfall. Notice that most of the models are very tightly clustered for the next 48 hours or so. After that, some divergence goes between what exactly the spread will be. And again, this is going to be one of those situations that the furthest east solutions will bring the most heavy weather to portions of the Baja Peninsula. But either way, a direct landfall is looking less likely from what it was the last couple of days, so that is certainly some good news there. Now, in terms of the Atlantic Basin, we still have two other tropical systems that could be forming over the next several days. We have a 60% area, which will likely be tagged Invest Area 95L, and a new system that will be emerging off the coast of Africa sometime over the next few days, whereafter some development of these systems is possible, especially this system here with a 60% chance. This likely has the best shot to become our next named storm over the next couple of days. The EPS forecast, the European ensembles do generally agree with this as well. We noticed that this is actually what will likely be Invest 95L right there. And this will be moving off towards the northwest over the next few days. A big weakness in the subtropical ridge will allow that to be steered generally away. However, there are still some members that do begin to try to carry this west, and a lot of this is going to depend exactly on what happens in relation to Earl and Danielle over the next couple of days. And then more systems look to try to develop as we try to close out the month of September. So we have a long ways to go yet. Of course, officially, hurricane season doesn't end until November 31st. All right. With that being said, I do hope you have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.